Podcast time! Why is there no mics? How do you just talking about it? Okay. That is what it is. Well, then you know what? Let's put it in there instead. Oh, you even have framed photos. Dude, this is really clever. I was wondering what you were going to use this space for. Since, like,
you know.
Before it was just filled with boxes. And this used to be a window. Okay, I get it, yeah.
No windows anymore.
Like, well, it used to be some sort of source of natural light.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if Wakefield at times comes in as well, but he wasn't. Not sure if he's coming or not.
Wakefield is.
He's the poet.
Oh yeah, the black dude.
Yep.
Yeah. Just redo this. From our dinner table, nice. It's got that well-weathered look to it.
So I'll probably get you just to be on this mic.
Sure.
I think it'll be the best one. Is Pokey the Ball joining us?
Yes.
Nice.
Well, I meant to bring the Gorilla Pod and I forgot.
Pokeball.
Pokey the Ball.
Who's that?
You'll meet him shortly.
Dude, I had like a totally different idea of what this is gonna be. I thought it was gonna be you and Vern just like smoking weed and talking this stupid shit. Now I'm glad to be on my best behavior, so
Let's
great.
smoke some weed.
Good to know. Well, I did wake and bake already because, dude, I gotta tell you, this waking up in the morning and then getting the meditation and push-ups out of the way, but then smoking and then going straight to stretching and rolling. I feel like it's changed my life already.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
I should do that.
Dude, it's crazy because it's just like, I have to feel like I have a lot of time, right? And normally when I'm doing stretching, my mind's going crazy. He's like, you gotta go to bed, or you gotta do this, you don't have time for this. And it's just this constant battle in my mind as I'm just trying to tune it out and stretch. But for some reason, if I wake up early in the morning, I feel like I got all the fucking time in the world. I don't even know why. And so I have this extremely enjoyable stretching and rolling process. And then I look at the time, and I still have a ton of time after, even after like an hour of it.
So you actually do have all the time in the world.
Yeah, I know, but before I didn't feel like I did, so I would just stress out about it and be like, I can't do this, I have to stop, I have to work, I have to do this, I have to go to bed. And then even if I did stop, I wouldn't do any of those things. I would just sit in front of like Netflix. I got 30 minutes and then like 2 hours go by. I pass out on the couch, wake up at like 10 a.m. Super late.
So this is a 360-degree camera. Yeah, we call him Pokey the Ball.
I wanted, oh, that's who that is, okay. That was a literal person.
Would you like us to sit down or can we stand, or what would be better for the camera?
Sitting would be better for the camera, but
I'm
I
totally
mean,
gonna sit, I'm not stand. What is this? The chairs here? Can we stand with some
Well, when you
weirdo?
sit on the chairs, you'll know why the option to stand is available.
Because it's like, desk is like up to your neck? Or what?
Well, it's just not the most comfortable chair.
Ah, this is fine, man. I don't think you know what uncomfortable chairs are. You should go work in my tech shop for a while. You'll know
Actually,
uncomfortable.
Those chairs are kind of up there with like uncomfortability. It's
Those things right there. All those wooden ones.
these ones.
Yeah, those are horrible. Those are the ones I have in my kitchen. And I only sit on them to eat food because they keep me wide awake because there's no way of relaxing on them.
All right. And we're always figuring out where to place these cameras because we never get. I want to have like set
this.
up on the wall or something.
Were you thinking of putting like a big type of like banner on this black space of the wall, or just for now blocking the light out instead?
Yeah, we will always. There will always be something to elevate here.
It looks just like a prime candidate for just like a big banner of some kind. You know what you should do? You should wallpaper one of these walls like a brick. It's not like actual brick, you know what I mean? But yeah, a backdrop of brick would be pretty cool. I don't know, maybe too Joe Rogan, but I like the it's like the feeling of when you're around that type of look, you know. Feels I don't know, adult.
All grown up.
Mm-hmm. Successful. Look at my red brick room. I read podcast.
So are we actually calling this episode 50, or are we going to do something else for 50 and pass this one off as 51?
Yeah, we'll probably do something like that. Actually, that's a good idea. Yeah, because we haven't really thought about episode 50. Not that you're not special.
No, I get it. I'm your
You're
brother.
totally
it's
special.
kind of like a weird, and a special guest is my brother. I'm more of just like, in the future, it would be nice if I could come and sit in on the show when you actually have something special here so that I can like participate in that. I'm like your Eddie Bravo, the crazy flat earth guy on Joe Rogan that he invites sometimes, but I think he stopped now because of how crazy he was.
You're totally welcome on any Saturday to come and just hang out and take pictures and like post on social.
It's cool, yeah, I totally do that.
That's a bit of a missing for us right now because my cameras are all caught up, so I can't very well go and post a picture when I'm talking on the mic and all my cameras are recording.
Yeah,
so
kind of weird.
It would be weird. Yeah, so there is no agenda to today.
We're just shooting the shit.
We're just shooting the shit.
Cool.
And we'll usually just do a bit of a preamble. I might actually even just smoke a little bit to get out of my own way.
We know we could talk about is the habit contracts, because I've been having a ton of people ask me about this shit.
We will totally talk about the habit contracts. That reminds me.
I know you guys slapped me, but I figure we just get that out of the way, and I need to get it documented anyways. So. Dude, like I swear to
I'm
God,
very excited about this, Aaron.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
At least we had something to do, right? This is special for what reason? Well, I slapped it.
And you let me know how we're doing, like when we're ready for audio.
Yeah.
If do we want to do a test again? Or are you good? Yeah.
I 100% want to do a test after last week.
Yeah. Totally.
Well, what happened? It just didn't record anything?
It recorded, but it had like this tone of static through the whole thing because he didn't have the right driver for, what do you call those things again?
USB interface?
The USB interface.
Well, I mean, that's very classic. It's a typical computer problem.
Yeah, we didn't think about it because I just changed things. I'm like, okay, so
you plugged into a different USB
I'm going to
port.
use I'm going to use my computer now. You use your computer because that's what he was using. And so new variable, plug, didn't think about it, didn't think to test, got right into it. Brilliant episode. And then when we were listening, he's like,
That was so bad that you couldn't even hear anything. Oh no,
not really.
I thought it might have just been a background noise, and you might have been able to know, but it's just like static.
Yeah, the good thing we had the video cameras as a backup, so we were able to pull the audio from there.
Oh yeah,
but good learning. Good learning.
Yeah, because I don't feel like cell phone audio is on par with.
No, not
with
this. This is
very elaborate setup.
Very different. Yeah, so you like it, eh?
Dude, I'm digging it. It feels very legitimate. It's getting
Just
more
remember
legitimate. Shit together.
And
no bullshit rules allowed. No bullshit rules allowed.
Have you ever read Vishen's book from?
No, man, I'm really just sort of dipping my toes back into personal development reading.
You
Send me it. Send me all of them. I'm making a list. And
checking it twice.
Especially if they have audiobooks, then it's so much easier.
It is an audiobook.
Yeah.
Code of the Extraordinary Mind is a really fascinating. He creates a really fascinating context for how we operate in such a default manner, and the reality being that we've never actually been given choice in the rules that have dictated what we can and can't do. Society, culture, religion, and they are all bullshit. They're made up. They're constructs of somebody else.
We've all mutually agreed that these are the guidelines, and you better stick to it, otherwise the other group of people will punish you for it.
Yeah, and you've actually not had a choice to say, I'm going to follow these ones over here. You were just
told that this is the way it
you
is.
just fall in line and do your thing. And that's like just the tip of the iceberg of what he talks about. But
yeah, it's cool.
Mind Valley as an institution, he is a direct competition, a challenger of the traditional education system, like universities. So Mind Valley, you go there, you apply, you learn in different cities around the world. That's part of your curriculum. You can bring your children, they learn. And you go around the world and you travel. They have this thing called Awesomeness Fest, and it is I don't know how long it goes for, but you have speakers and you learn stuff, and apparently it's awesome.
That's probably why they gave it that name. Yeah. And no, I really like to see the paradigm shifting that way when it comes to education.
Yeah,
we all got educated the old the old classic school system way.
Yeah,
and,
it was traditional.
Just seems like there could have been such a better way to connect me on certain topics of subject that I found difficult, like mathematics, even certain sciences, physics. Physics was just like, I'm certain it's just by its very nature very complicated. So there's a limit to how simplified you can make it. But with now, like the education they have for it nowadays, they have such an innovative way of presenting the information so that you can visualize it instead of having to like, you know, figure the math out. Now there's all these visualization exercises, and I feel like if I was younger now, with the information available to me in terms of how I can study things differently, if I was interested, that's what we really need, is like the motivation and self-interest. You learn almost anything.
And knowing that's a choice. And you got to be around the people that are doing those things, otherwise it's
just gonna fall in line with whoever you're with. Yeah.
Yeah, you just have no idea. I'm always present to that now, being a dad. Like noticing the influences they get inside of school. Some of the things that they say, I'm like, where did you hear that?
It's just like what dad and mom did to us.
It's super random, and I'm like, you do realize that, and they're very sensitive, and they are guided by intuition, partly because we've coached them to do so. So something that seems a bit off, I'm like, well, what did you do about it? And intuitively, they are able to make some really great decisions around what happens. Like, let's say kids at school aren't behaving properly, they're not being nice. There is a typical way of reacting to that, and then there is another way, and they're always they're really starting to look for the other way of acting, reacting to a situation. Sensitive to the other person and how they're feeling or what they're doing, and they're only 7.
Yeah, empathic children.
Yeah, and by design, really, because they are a byproduct of the environment they're inside of. We were not as empathetic necessarily; it was more
close it off,
definitive.
Yeah, you can't associate with these people.
This is how it goes. Yeah, and that's it.
Yeah, that messed with me so badly, because I had so many. I remember the one distinct memory I have from school, at least like early stages of school, was how angry all my friends were at me, because I could never hang out with them after school or go to any of their birthday parties. And I back then I was just like, well, you know, you'll get over it. It's not a big deal. Like, I understand, you should understand. But when I think of it now, yeah, it might have been offensive if like I really liked this person and I kept inviting him to my parties and my birthdays and blah blah blah, and he just never showed up. It just feel like he wasn't interested in being a closer friend with me. And so when I think of it now, I'm just like, oh yeah, it must have just been like causing all of these people strange emotional anguish that I couldn't explain.
Yeah, totally. Right? And you were unable to explain because it didn't make sense.
Yeah, I'm doing this because God said so. I don't know what to tell you guys.
That's right. All right, so let's get the slap out of the way.
I need someone to videotape that, actually.
Well, we just happen to have 2 cameras.
Well, will you send me the video? Because I hate when other people...
Post it online, publicly.
Yeah, I hate when people take videos of me, because then it takes ages to get the content. And I'm like, I just need the content.
I can totally do that. See where he's at.
I figured maybe it'd be smarter to talk about the habit contracts to add context to why you're just randomly slapping me.
Yeah,
Instead of being like, hey, I think his brother on to beat him up.
This is actually really great because we get to create it, and we get to create some context around it, and there will be there's a bit more of a formality that happens at the beginning, which we'll get into. So we're good for audio?
Yeah, I was just trying one other thing, but this is the way.
And is Pokey on? Or
not yet.
Nice.
God, I want one of those so badly.
They're
It's just so awesome for training. I can just literally put it right in the middle of whatever I'm doing, and then it'll just film me in omnidirectional. And that's just
Did you ever watch the 360 video?
I did.
Okay.
I wasn't sure. We should talk about how we can use that footage. Like, even if it was on its own, like there's something to be done with it to pull. If we weren't to not necessarily stitch it together, but you can use it as its own B-roll almost, right?
Well, isn't the idea so that the viewer can just choose where he's looking? When
I don't know how much time that takes
to render,
to stitch it up and whatnot. So
it doesn't just automatically come as a file that is like 3D. No?
No.
I wonder how that works.
It's
Yeah,
like
I've
a
never
big,
worked with one.
it's a really long video file.
And they
there's
probably have them in pieces.
something that you have to do to like wrap it.
Oh,
Yeah, because I mean, like
That makes
even
sense.
so, what you're left with is
That's so cool.
That is so
I love
cool.
it. That is so dope. Because, you know, if you guys know what you need to get in here, Dave, you need to get a projector or some kind of video screen. And then, you know, because when we talk about things, sometimes we drop a bunch of facts that may or may not be true. And so it's kind of cool to have like a fact checker. Not like what they do in Joe Rogan Show and a bunch of other podcasts, just to like pull up information about certain like recent events that you guys are talking about. Or just to make sure that if someone's making a claim that seems a bit bogus, you're like, let's just check online to see if there's any validity
Let's
to
call
it.
you out publicly.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not even like, it's the first result, so it's like not even necessarily that they're wrong, but it's just to like, maybe they are right, and they have all this wealth of information getting deeper into whatever they're touching on. And I just think it adds a bit of credibility that just makes something a little bit funner. And then you have that 360 camera, which can then, you know, the viewer can then see whatever is on
I
that
love
screen.
that. I think it's super cool. You'll want to make sure that your mic is at least at the edge of the table,
Like this.
but don't move it around. What is it?
I know these things are sensitive.
Yeah, it's really the only thing is because these are all screwed in, so they don't actually swivel. And
Oh, okay, because you're making them looser whenever you do that.
Exactly. So you can move it like this.
Just
right?
don't move
just,
the...
yeah, just don't move this thing.
That makes sense.
You're good to go. So you nervous?
Not really.
Nice. Awesome. You should be.
Why? I'd be nervous if this was going to be like I don't think this would ever make me nervous. I feel like if I say anything dumb or if it's a bad episode, you just won't post it. So,
No, we posted all.
well, I mean, I'm pretty shameless. Let's be honest here. I feel like once you've performed in front of thousands of people, with the possibility of landing on your head and making yourself just humiliating yourself in front of that many people and going through that anxiety over and over again.
This is nothing.
This feels pretty like refreshing.
There are some people that come here and they're like noticeably uncomfortable and nervous.
Oh, I could believe it. I could see that.
They're
They might be worried about saying something dumb or not funny.
Well, Wakefield says it really well. He's like, when people know that they are alone, they will behave naturally. And when people know that they are being watched or that there's someone around, they will attempt to act naturally.
Yeah.
And that's where all the awkwardness is.
Yeah.
Right?
Stiffness and no eye contact.
Do you need to go to the bathroom?
No, I'm fine. I'm fine. Wish Fern was here though.
Yeah,
I was going to ask him to babysit my dog again. Hey buddy, so how's about that wait list?
Did you?
There's a couple other people, but we talked a bit about it.
Yeah.
He didn't seem stoked. I would rather someone who wanted to do it, but that's difficult. And I already committed to this, man. It was $2,000 to do this stunt workshop. And it's basically just like a giant audition. A bunch of stunt coordinators all over Canada. So they're going to see how well I fall off of like 30 feet into a giant airbag. Or
How well you fall off?
Dude, I've fallen off of 15 feet and it's terrifying. And I don't know why.
You're going to do 30 feet?
Yeah. It's crazy.
Like, for me right now, I just got, it was just a number. It's like, yeah, 30 feet.
It's 3 stories. It's like a building.
And then you just get present to how high that actually is. And you got to fall off of
backwards.
Backwards.
Yeah, dude,
Not
man. And like the
yourself.
very first time I've ever fallen off of something like an airbag, I was so dumb because I didn't think there was much to it. So I was doing a stunt fight up there. My buddy, he did like a Sparta kick. And then what I did is I jumped up and then I fell down. But what happened is the center of my balance was totally off. So my torso went down faster and I literally just suitcased on this airbag where like my legs went over my head.
Oh my goodness.
And everyone was just like, oh, you know, that horrible feeling where everybody saw you fuck up and they're like, oh. And I got out of that fine, like miraculous. But Dad saw that. He would have had so much more ammunition to like give me shit.
Don't watch this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna get the slap out of the way.
Well, should we talk about it first?
We'll talk about it after.
You just seem so excited and eager to do this.
We'll just.
I want this content.
Yeah.
And then don't you hold out on me.
Well, you're gonna get the content. So and you'll get it from a couple angles.
Just count it down.
I'll be gentle. Okay, so this one I wanna because I am a lefty.
I'm just prepared for this side of my face. Now I got emotions coming up from here.
Okay, you ready?
Just count me down to 3.
Why would I come
Just
to
do
you?
it. Oh, God. There's always like a ringing and a burning feeling. Oh, God, I hate that. I hate that so much. You know, I've been
What a way to start a podcast. He can't even hold it in. He's laughing so
Oh,
hard.
it's so funny. It's so funny. Ha ha. I'm emotional right now, guys, so I'm sorry I can't be on your level, but I'm glad you enjoyed it. There is something so emotionally triggering about being slapped by another man that I don't know how to act.
People are so reactive to things.
I'm surprised anybody would have found that funny. I mean, I guess, yeah, I'd be hearing myself. It's kind of funny, but...
Okay, so we have a guest, and I just slapped him.
My face hurts now. It's burning.
Bring your mic a little closer. Unfortunately, Vern couldn't make it today this morning, and Wakefield, I guess, wasn't also able to make it, and it's all good. So I am here with my brother, and my brother is he's done a lot. He is one of the oldest competitive athletes in the province when it comes to parkour, and has been training and coaching parkour for the last 10 years. In his free time, he helps run a stunt group called Optimal Movement. It's a motley crew of free runners, acrobats, and tracers, and they have performed all over Alberta so far. Through all of that, Patrick has experienced some big failures in his competition performances. He saw what happens when you do what you love from the place of having to win versus the love of doing it. He's traveled and explored Europe, East Asia, and Japan, and got pulled into a reality TV show after landing in Japan. He ended up having a group of people with cameras follow him around, recording everything he did for most of his trip. In a past life, he commanded his own alien legion in the Great Wars of the Koprulo sector in the Diamond Leagues of StarCraft.
Oh, I never said that.
And at his core, Patrick loves to entertain, loves to explore, and will always try something new, at least once.
Damn straight.
Yeah, so welcome.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm really excited about everything you're doing here.
Yeah, I saw that when you came in, and Patrick actually thought we were recording in the other room,
with no mics,
which had no mics, and he's like, and he was still very excited.
It actually looks cool out there.
Yeah.
So I'm just like,
He's
this
like,
is way better than my
so
office.
this is what we're doing, eh?
Yeah.
Like, no, over here.
Yeah, this is awesome, dude. Great setup. I love to see this growing. I'll be honest, like in the beginning, I didn't think too much about it. I'm just like, it's one of David's like crazy side projects that he's doing, because you're always up to something,
Yeah.
some sort of creative ambition. And I'm just like, I'll support him.
Oh,
For however long this will last. But it's really grown into something that I've been impressed with. I've been listening to them pretty regularly. And, you know, the funniest thing was, I never really was into this sort of thing until after Mike moved away.
Right.
And he was always trying to get me to watch Joe Rogan. He's like, you gotta listen to this Joe Rogan podcast. You gotta watch this Joe Rogan podcast. And I was always like, yeah, I'll get to it. And it's because he was a tile setter, so I guess he had a lot of time to just do like a monotonous job.
Yeah, have
And
something in the background.
He just has something in the background. And with my work, it was usually like problem solving oriented. So I didn't have like a lot of attention I could have diverted to, you know, information being explained to me from like a podcast. Or at least that was the story I told myself. And then after he moved away, I missed him a ton. And I know he's listening to this right now. Or he will be eventually. Miss you, buddy. Miss you, buddy.
Mm-hmm. Where is he again?
He's in Gabriola Island.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, really cool place. Anyways, I just started watching them. And wow, it was actually extremely informative. Especially now with the political atmosphere the way it is. And coming from a group of people that was placing an emphasis on not knowing anything about global politics. And it seems kind of scary being thrusted into like the craziness that's going on right now. So when they talk about it, or he has guests on to talk about it, it's just like, these are topics that I'm interested in, but don't know how to talk about with other people maybe, because it's always so sensitive.
Right.
And I have my own opinions, but I realize I have biases, and it's always nice to see like him bring on professionals or people with accolades. Like he had Neil deGrasse Tyson, he had Elon Musk. Like he had so many fascinating people that I've never seen do any live interviews before. Anyways. Long
So
story short.
one of the biggest reasons for the Just Life and this podcast is part of the medium for us telling story is to get under people who are not known yet, who are up to some pretty cool stuff and have never really been given the chance or really knew how or didn't even realize it was a thing to actually drive and create more awareness around what they're up to, what they've done, their past experiences. And Calgary is a rich cross section of people and talent and story, and so this is why we're doing Just Life. We're doing a performance at Theatre Grand to bring more of the poetry to places where it wouldn't normally have a presence, and this is part of many initiatives that we're looking to create a platform for storytelling. So whether it's the podcast, whether it's a documentary, the video that we create, I'm really interested and curious about what it would look like to create a comic book that starts to showcase and create some of these stories from people. And I have no idea what that looks like, but
it's a clever idea.
Yeah, I think, and there are so many of those, and given my background, it just seemed like a really natural fit to explore it and try and find out. And then having people like Aaron, Aaron's managed to, not manage, but he takes on the audio so that I don't have to manage it, and then I can actually be with people, which was really my big thing right now, is to be with people.
Yeah.
To understand people, to be able to understand myself inside of starting to understand people. So that's why we're doing what we're doing here. Anyways, so I slapped my brother at the beginning of the episode.
I feel better now. It doesn't hurt anymore.
Yeah, nice.
The ringing's gone.
I gotta say there is something about the act of doing that is uncomfortable on my side, and at the same time very liberating. Validating.
You bitch.
Well, not necessarily that. It's just like, I don't know. It is a very visceral thing. I mean, certainly visceral on your side because you're the one experiencing the tingles.
Plus, I know you're still at risk for it too. So when you get to dish it out, you're like, man, I really don't want to feel this.
Yeah,
gives you motivation not to make a mistake.
It totally does, because I can feel it in my hand. Right? Like, it's not like it doesn't hurt my hand.
Oh my god, guys are hurting your hand, slapping me. I thought we talked about this rule. I'm just kidding. Not hitting too hard, but I mean, if you're hitting me so hard that your hand hurts, I feel like that.
Well, I wouldn't say it hurts, but I feel it.
Yeah, you feel it go.
So I slapped my brother, and it was super fun. And there was a reason behind it. We had this. We set up a contract. Where did that come from again?
Yeah, so there was an audiobook that I heard about from a podcast called The School of Greatness. And the audiobook is a book as well. It's Atomic Habits. I don't actually remember the author's name. I feel kind of foolish right now. But
I'll post it though.
Yeah, it's an amazing audiobook, and it's given me so much information and tools to just sort of redefine my life. So I'm in my 30s now, and I have many of the same, habits that I've had since high school. Staying up late and not prioritizing my time, and I'm just kind of done with it. But the problem is, you start these bad habits, and the bad habits happen because they're frictionless. There's no consequences for doing the bad habit. You don't really notice the consequences until maybe far later in life. Let's just say if it's bad eating, for example, or poor sleeping,
right,
or not exercising regularly. In the moment when you make those decisions, there's no real consequence for it. In fact, there's usually a perk because now you don't have to exercise, or now you don't have to get out of bed.
I'm going to watch some Netflix.
Watch some Netflix, yeah. So you kind of get that instant gratification as opposed to the delayed gratification. So I was just looking for some book or some new concept or approach, not even necessarily new, because I wouldn't say these are new. And in that audiobook, he never makes that claim either, but it's kind of like he's presenting the same information but in a fresh way that's easy for me to understand. And yeah, it's essentially like adding friction to the bad habits so that the good habits are technically the easier choice, And that's kind of, the habit contract is one of many methods that he has to accomplish this. And the idea is you make an agreement with somebody that is your accountability partner. That way, they also hold you to your word. because I'm guilty for this, but there's many times where I'll say I'll do something, and then when push comes to shove, I don't do it, and so I sort of dishonor my word, and I get to a point where I can no longer trust myself, and that's
and you
serious.
don't even realize that you can't trust yourself
Yeah.
because you just keep doing it. You're running the operating system, and you're wondering why it's not working. Why isn't anything working?
And why do I feel so bad?
And why do you feel so bad?
I don't understand, you know,
Yeah.
and it's easy because you're just not honoring your word. You're not acting in integrity. And that has been a really chief thing for me because in the podcast School of Greatness, he talks about defining your core values. And this is like, I don't know, you probably know about all of this already, but for me, this is like it's a different side of personal development because I've been really focusing on the spiritual side,
Yeah.
you know, with parkour and with certain tantric practices and some Buddhism and, you know, Vipassana meditation and, you know, the music festival scene, which I'm kind of over now. I was looking more at experiential based, you know, wisdom and then when we did, you probably remember that group that we were part of for a brief period of time. It was, we went to their workshops and they had,
This was local?
yeah, I can't believe I can't remember what they're called now, but you were really about them for a while. And we were trying to get mom and dad on them.
You talking about Landmark?
Yes. Oh, God. I can't even remember. Landmark had a pretty big impact on me, too. And it was more of the intellectualized side of being a better person.
Yeah.
But I haven't dabbled as much in, like, you've made vision boards and you've done, you know, you've paid for courses and you've worked with, I think, mentors or life coaches.
Lots of coaches.
Yeah, I haven't really done that, you know. So this is kind of a new thing for me. But there's, like, defining core values. What are your ethics? Like, these are deep questions that take a lot of time to think about.
So long story short, and I'm not digging on you,
Oh, yeah, sorry.
but I am digging on you.
Okay.
So we ended up, what came out of there was this contract, right?
Yeah.
And you saw something for yourself as like an access point for you to take on something that you've not been able to take on powerfully in your world for forever, really.
For a really long time, yeah.
And adding a level of accountability. Now, was the slapping that was created by us? That wasn't part of.
Well, yeah. The idea was just to like come up with a consequence that was quick and painful, but not like so painful that it was like unbearable.
That you don't want to do it again.
That I don't want to do it, you know, because like in the book Atomic Habits, he talks about creating friction for your bad habits. And so I needed it to be immediate friction. So that basically the alternative, doing the good habit, was way more preferable than enduring the consequences of sort of binging the bad habit. And so in my case, it was simple. It's like get up at 8 a.m. and do some stretching and, you know, push-ups in the morning, just 10 push-ups in the morning. And then, you know, meditate.
But the real thing for you was to get up early.
was to get up early, yeah.
That's your biggest milestone that you're really hurdle that you're really wanting to hit, right? Because you've not.
No.
You're quote unquote the night owl.
Well, and it was like I'd wake up early just to go back to bed. So it's like I'd wake up, 8 a.m. I deserve 30 minutes snooze. And then it'd be like 2 hours go by. I'd get like, oh shit.
Nice.
Yeah. So having to like send that, and I have to send David a video of me doing push-ups, which was like, I have to be awake now. I can't go back
That's
to
right.
bed.
You can't say you did it.
Yeah, and I'm not going to do push-ups and go back to bed because that is so stupid and lame. Then I'm just like, at what point am I like dishonoring my word again? You know?
Well, and at the end, really at the end of the day, when that, if you were to take that action, you are not honoring yourself.
Exactly.
And that self-worth or the lack thereof that starts to show up.
Yeah.
Man, that is not a thing that you want to carry around.
No.
And you're carrying it around, and it's about you. And so like the fingers are always pointing at you all the time because you know what you did.
Yep.
Whether you are willing to listen to it or hear it or not.
Yeah, and I mean, you're my accountability partner, but I can't be like, David will take care of me, or I'll do things to avoid having, like, you're my new dad or
hence
something.
the slap.
Yeah.
So it was something that was visceral, that got you, that knocked some sense into what it was, like reminded you of what the game is that you're playing.
Well, yeah, because the first week I made no mistakes.
Yeah,
Because
totally.
the idea of
Like,
getting
I got
slapped
this.
was really bad, and then I also have to pay him $5, which sucks too, because it's just not a lot of money, but it's
In
still
the
money.
moment.
Yeah, that's gone, and it's not just Dave. My other friend Rob is part of this. So I technically get slapped by 2 people,
Yeah.
and I have to pay $5 to 2 people. So like when I had to endure it with Rob, I hated it so much. And then the thought of, I gotta do this another time.
Knowing that it's coming
Then
again.
another one's coming again, and it's like, I can't afford to make these mistakes anymore, because this sucks so much worse than just getting up and doing all my stuff. And the fact is, getting up early and having done my morning ritual has been such a rewarding and nurturing thing that it's like, it's so funny. I'm like, why couldn't I have started this sooner? But because, the bad habits were easy to binge, and now the bad habits suck. They're worse. They're way worse.
Yeah.
So, like, there's no way I want to
You're
do
actually
that.
seeing it from a different lens.
Yeah.
And you're seeing that it's actually a disservice,
Oh, yeah.
even though you've created for so long that it's been,
My go-to.
it's the thing, it's who you are, it's what
Yeah.
you do.
It's my identity.
Yeah,
Oh, my God.
and getting that actually is not the case.
Yeah.
So you did a lot of traveling, and I really enjoy the stories you tell about your trip into Asia, and
Oh, yeah.
without going into the stories too much, and just kind of like giving some top level context, I'd really love to know what that created for you, what that gave you. And when did that happen? How long ago?
That was in 2013. So a little more than five years ago or so.
Yeah,
Hitting, I guess, 6. Oh God,
getting older, man.
Yeah, it's like, it feels like it was just last year, and I'm like, can't wait to get back out there. I'm just gonna be in Calgary for a little bit, save up some money, and go back out there, and then it's
Been 5 years.
Yeah, almost a decade, yeah, or at least half a decade. So yeah, 2013, I did all that, and it actually just started out as a bet with a friend, because we always talked about going, and we never did it. So in 2012, it's like, why don't we just buy the tickets in 2013, and then we'll save up money to that point? And it's like, if we don't go, we just lost all that money. So I guess in a way
It's
we were
another
kind
version
of
the
yeah,
slap.
totally. I guess in a way we kind of created this consequence if we didn't follow through with this thing that we wanted to do, and it worked. It ended up working because
But what happened?
well, for me in general, I guess it was just like learning how to be an independent human being and maybe plan ahead a little bit. Because there were some situations I found myself in that could have been avoided if I had just put some thought into what I was doing.
Versus just running.
Instead of just going by the seat of my
automatically.
pants, and just flying by.
Yeah, because something happened to your buddy, right?
He obliterated his knee because Matt, my friend, had just opened up the parkour gym, the very first one here in Calgary. And I guess during, because Nick was part of renovating it and making it all happen, and he was just burning himself out. And so then he was part of the demo team, and he was just demonstrating the obstacles that they created to all the customers or clientele that were coming to check it out. And he just, it must not have been a great demonstration either, because I guess he did something very simple off of this obstacle that, frankly speaking, seemed to have hurt a lot of people.
Right. Probably shouldn't have
They
been
call it
there.
the rocket box, but it took so many people's legs and knees and ankles out.
Oh my goodness,
that
that's
it's,
horrible.
and it didn't even look that dangerous, but I think people just would tackle it when they were too tired. And that was the case for Nick. He took it, and he must have been exhausted, and it was a very simple accident, but changed his life forever, and that was 3 days before we had to leave.
Nice.
And he did all the planning.
And he did all the
All
planning.
the planning, he had everything figured out, and I was just gonna hang out with him and let him call all the shots. Kind of like what we did when we were running
In
that
Germany.
restaurant. Yeah.
You were just looking for another big brother.
Yeah, dude.
Hey, man, can you
totally.
take care of me while I have
He's
fun?
younger than me too by like 6 years.
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
great.
That's exactly what
So to give you some context, Patrick is my youngest brother of two brothers, one of which is no longer around. And so there was always that era of it's okay, they've got me. Like, I don't have to worry about it too much.
pretty much my whole life actually.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it also can turn into a handicap if you don't
Codependency.
if you don't like step into and own your own path, your own direction, your own journey, right? So he obliterated his knee, and now you're going,
Yeah.
to
Oh yeah.
Japan.
Oh yeah. And
By
no one
yourself.
speaks English. Everybody said they speak English, but they don't. I went to the airport, the Narita airport, and there's no translators. There's nothing. I was just flabbergasted by how much those TV shows lied to me, because I thought for sure, from all the cartoons I've watched and from all the TV,
Well,
the
those
TVs.
were definite sources like that you could rely on for
Not really.
information.
I feel people warn me about that. They're like, Patrick, Japan isn't like those cartoons you watch.
Right.
They are.
So you got there, and right away, like magic, the magic of the journey of the adventure began for you.
Actually, it was more like horrible worry and anxiety because like I was on the airport, or I was in the airplane, and I think it was like halfway on the airplane ride, I realized I have no idea what I'm doing when I land. I got to figure this out. Like, how do I get my bullet train pass? How do I figure out where I'm staying? Because Nick had told me where the hostel was, but I had no idea how to get to it. And I didn't speak any Japanese.
Was Google Maps the thing back then? Like that
it was
easy to access?
It was, but it didn't help me find anything.
Right.
Like I don't know why I was
awesome.
so incompetent, but I was just because I remember. Well, I'll get into it later, but I was so useless on my own. Like it was actually shocking. And so when I landed in the airport and I'm sitting and waiting for my luggage to show up in that little, conveyor belt, I got hit with this huge case of anxiety. And I guess you could say I was out of my comfort zone for sure at that point. Because I guess at that whole point I was like, yeah, willy-nilly about it. And then suddenly it dawned on me. I'm like, I'm on my own in another country where no one speaks English, or at least no one I can see here speaking English, and I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And
oh man.
Yeah. So that was bad. I felt really bad. And so I was kind of nervously, maybe I looked like a spectacle as far as I know, because that's when the TV crew came. They just found me. And I feel like they might have been obvious.
Not just a random person, Samaritan, but a fucking TV crew.
Yeah, that was really intimidating, yeah. Because they cornered me. It wasn't even like they found
cameras
me.
and everything.
Yeah, they just like surrounded me and like stuck mics in my face and started asking me when I was in Japan and what I'm doing here. And I just thought they were like some news station. They're just desperate for some kind of story. Oh, a white guy, let's ask him why he's here. Like,
so what happened after that?
I told them, because at this point in my career with parkour, I kind of had an ego. And this didn't help my ego either, I'll tell you, man. And so I was like, I do parkour. I'm a parkour athlete. And of course they have no idea what that is.
It was how you defined yourself.
Yeah,
really.
And it's still a big part of my identity, but it's less about the, look how great I am. And
more
it's
about parkour, but what it gives you.
But what it supplied for me,
yeah.
So yeah, and they're just like, can you demonstrate? And it's like an airport. You've been to an airport before. It's mostly just open space with some escalators. And I'm like, I could jump off this escalator maybe. Like, I didn't want to do anything that was really dangerous because also at that time my parkour level wasn't that high. I was better, but still wasn't nowhere near where I'm at right now. And I was like, well, what would be the most entertaining thing? Well, what does everybody want to see? Everybody wants to see backflip. It's all people care about. They just want to see backflip. If you show them a backflip, they'll lose their mind. And if you show it to them again, they don't care. They've lost complete interest. That's why I have a rule where I'll only do it once.
It's a one-time thing.
And people get so annoyed or mad at me because I'll just do it once and they'll rip out their phone and be like, can you do it again? Can you do it again? And I'm sorry, that was just a one-time show only. I'll do it again for $5. And that's when they're just like, they just leave. Or they'll call me a name. We had one woman so mad at us, she was like insulting, like flinging insults at us.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, why?
People are crazy.
So entitled sometimes. But I just did this terrible backflip. Mind you, I was on an airplane for 9 hours, so it was like...
Yeah, that didn't help.
No, so I stuck the landing, but it was gross, everything looked bad. I could only imagine how horrible it was. But they lost their mind. They're like, ah! And everyone else in the airport was like, I don't know, watching and in amazement too, and I'm just... It did not help my ego, because at that point I felt like, yeah, that's right, everybody.
Right. I'm here, I have arrived.
I have arrived. And so then they just asked, well, where am I going? What am I doing? I'm like, well, I'm struggling to find how to get my bullet prep. Like, how do I get my bullet pass? And they're just like, oh, well, I can help you with that. Because one of them was a translator, right? So she just helped me get all of my shit in order. It was awesome. And she got me on the bullet train. But the thing that weirded me out was that it came with me. And I'm like, okay, this interview is going on for a really long time.
Are you guys going the same direction?
Yeah. Honestly, I told myself that story. I had this, because I never asked them what this was.
Great.
I just assumed it was this TV interview. And I'm like, wow, these are some dedicated journalists. Because I even remember passing out on the bullet train and then waking up, and they had all their cameras fixed on me, and they're just watching me. And I'm just like, you're watching me sleeping. And it's just, how entertaining could that possibly be? But
so you're on the bullet train,
yeah,
and you're on your way to your hostel. You got to your hostel.
No, I got lost, and they refused to help me. They wouldn't tell me how to get to my hostel, because what I didn't know at the time was they're just kind of, taking video of me doing what I should be doing naturally. The idea was that I wasn't supposed to know that they were there. They were supposed to just be the fly on the wall, so to speak. But I knew that they were there, and I didn't know what this was. So I just was looking at them, being like...
So you still didn't know why they were filming?
Yes, and I'm like, can you guys help me?
And you never asked?
No. I think I asked, but I wasn't listening.
No, you probably didn't.
I was more convinced in my story. What was
Most of
happening.
us would likely not have asked.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
just felt like we need to know
Yeah.
that we should already know what's going on.
Yeah.
You don't look like
At this point, I'm too afraid to ask.
That's right. That's so
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, so I couldn't find my hostel. I was lost for 30 or 40 minutes until they finally were like, that way, turn that way.
Oh
and I'm
my
like,
goodness.
I'm like, oh, that way? Oh, okay.
It was like a game for them.
Yeah, it was. And then when it was over and I was finally in my hostel, it was an exhausting day. And I'm like, that was fun. That was definitely fresh. I'm kind of excited to see what else Japan has to offer. And now that I was at my home base, I was feeling better, more confident, you know? And then I woke up in the morning. Actually, they woke me up in the morning. The guy that ran the hostel.
Oh.
No, the guy, he woke me up. He's like, these people out here waiting for you. What? And I go out there, and it's the same people, the same group of people. And I'm like, what is going on here? And they're like, this is a TV show. Like, you agreed that we would follow you while you were in Japan. And they were going to follow me the whole time. The whole, like, week and a half. Well, they didn't, actually. No, I could get to that. That's actually my fault. And that's also a funny story. But at first I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. Because it just was so weird and fast and sudden. And then I'll never forget this dude that was there. And he's like, look, man, if you don't want them to follow you around, just tell them to go away, and they'll go away. But how often does this happen to people? And I thought about it, and I'm like, well, this never happened to me before.
Well, and you probably felt obligated.
Yeah, there was a sense of obligation.
Yeah, totally.
But the obligation was like a secondary feeling over, I could be on TV.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm going to do this. Yeah, and then they followed me around, and it was crazy. I used to do funny things, like the camera guy had to always film me no matter what. That was his job. And so I would mess with him on purpose. Because all of them didn't speak English except for the one translator. So I would just like, they'd ask me these like really deep questions about parkour or why I do it, and then I'd go into this like philosophical interpretation I have, you know, and it would get deep. Like I get like really connected to my heart when I talk about this. So I'd express, you know, how it helped me conquer my fears and all these other things. And then she would just be like, you know, you could see that she was touched. She's like, oh. And then she'd try translating it to everybody. And as they're all listening, they're all like, oh. I'd hear them making little sounds. I'm like, yeah, that's right.
That's right.
That's right. But I'd wait for the cameraman to be distracted, because then he'd start listening to what she was saying. And then I'd just run. I'd just run away as fast as I could. And then this dude, every time I turned around, this dude would be like right up my ass. It was like so hard to lose him. And I'd climb up over buildings, and I'd jump over things, and he'd try to like film me while I was doing it.
He wasn't climbing stuff though.
He was trying to.
Dude.
With a huge, heavy camera, man.
You needed somebody recording the camera guy.
Yeah.
That would have been priceless.
That guy was way cool. Yeah, he was like dedicated. I'll give him that much. And it wasn't one of those little like small cameras. This is like one of those big TV ones that like look like they weigh like 80 pounds or something. And they're probably, you know, so expensive. So if you drop it, it's like way too much money. But this guy would follow me. I remember at one time at Rainbow Bridge where I did it for the second time, I knew that he was ready for it, and he was on me. Like, I couldn't lose the dude. But it was a ton of fun, and at the end of it, even though we couldn't speak the same language, I felt that when we talked to each other, because he would just talk in Japanese and I would talk to him in English, it felt like we understood each other. It was so hard to explain. And then we'd high five, like instinctively. It's like I said what I wanted to say, he said what he wanted to say, and without looking at any body language cues, we just both high five, like we knew what we were talking about.
And it wasn't a Dumb and Dumber one where he missed.
Maybe those might have happened.
Oh, that's really great. So was there anything else that really memorable inside of Japan?
Well, they kept pressuring me to do every bloody 10 or 20 minutes. They'd be like, "Are you gonna do any parkour? Are you gonna do any parkour? Are you gonna do any parkour?" It never stopped. There was never any moment of rest. And so I was constantly trying to find new places where I could just, you know, jam. I could do like a session, or I could come up with a movement line or whatever. Mm-hmm. Because every time I did it, I'd always attract a crowd of people, and then these people would want to get their photos with me and stuff, which was kind of a dream of mine.
So you're a bit of a celebrity out there.
Yeah, there's like these little kids be like, "We want to get your photo." In fact, there was a kid that I almost destroyed because I did this front flip, and he came running out of nowhere, and I saw that he was coming, so I untucked at the last second, so I landed on my back. And so I humiliated myself in front of a big group of people, but I didn't destroy this little child that was running through, right? And when they saw me, they're like, "Oh!" And then they wanted to get their photo with me, so I got a photo with them, and I'm like, it's feeling so cool, and, you know, I'm big time. And then I remember one day on the Rainbow Bridge, right next to this, like, museum that they had, where there's, like, this giant Gundam, you know, those big, like, giant robots that they have. They wanted me to do parkour again, and I'm just like already feeling pretty haggard because it's been 3 or 4 days of this. And I looked at this jump, Oh, it was so foolish of me. I looked at it and I'm like, I don't know if I can make this. I feel like it might be too big or I might be feeling too rough right now. But they kept being like, yeah. And just holding the camera, just like, we're ready to film you do this. And I'm like, okay, fine, let's just do this. And I went for it, and I didn't make it. I did not make it. I smashed my knee right into the edge of the concrete, and when I pulled my pant leg up, there was a huge gnarly gash, just a laceration. There was no like destruction of like my joints or anything, but I got cut really bad.
Yeah.
And then it just started pouring blood down my leg because it went right to the bone. It was just like, it was a deep cut. So they were like, they were not expecting me to hurt myself.
Did you have insurance?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Good for
Absolutely
you.
I did. I would never. See, Nick at least gave me enough, foresight to plan for that.
Yeah, well, that's good.
No, I had insurance, but they were like, uh-oh, this dude is a
Okay,
huge
episode's
liability
over.
now. Yeah. They're like, they got me a little Band-Aid and they put it on my knee and they're like, Daijobu. And then I never heard from them. Just
They disappeared.
Well, they asked me for all my footage that I took because every now and then I get them to record things on my GoPro for my Instagram feed. But they asked me for my footage and then that was it. And then they told me later on, about a week or two later, they couldn't air the episode because I hurt myself. And it was just like this big legal thing. And I'm like, I was so devastated. I was so choked. I felt so betrayed. I'm like, you guys are supposed to be with me while I traveled around Japan. And I went right back into my old way of thinking. I didn't want to leave Tokyo because I was injured and I was hobbling around. But I was also trying to convince myself it wasn't that serious, so I didn't need to go to the hospital.
Right.
So I didn't wait until eventually I had to go to Bangkok, and then I got super infected deliberately by the Bangkok hospital. Because I went to one of these hospitals there, and they started sticking these iodine things inside of my knee. I have a video
Yeah,
of
I
it. It's
remember
so gnarly.
that video. That was nasty.
It was nasty.
Actually.
Yeah, deliberately got infected, and then I was hospitalized for a week. So I went from like crazy high to like
In Bangkok,
in Bangkok.
of all places.
Of all places.
Probably would have been better to do that in Japan.
Yeah, man, it just was a great example of I should have done something sooner about this instead of living my emotion of being like sad or lonely or
Justifying.
Yeah, I had this racket going where I was like, it was their fault for me getting hurt.
Right. So I shouldn't do anything about
So I
it.
shouldn't do anything about it until it's like I have to. Yeah, man.
So, you had. I love that story. I love what it created as like the next path in your journey. There was a big leap that you took inside of uncertainty, and you played there. And I know from speaking about it before your trip and after your trip that there was a lot that you grappled with before you were going, and that you mentioned that you grappling with as you were there, and then what happened in Bangkok. And in Bangkok, there were a few things that happened in Bangkok that just kind of reinforced probably why I shouldn't have done this. And why am I here?
Mm-hmm.
Why did you do it? Actually, here's a better question, and this is in kind of wrapping up the podcast. We keep it inside about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
In doing your trip, and in looking at it now, what was that thing that it did for you? There was almost like a new birthing of you as a person when you came back from that. What died and what got replaced in that trip for you?
I want to say this. You guys can censor this if you want, but I think Bitch Patrick died.
Bitch Patrick?
Bitch Patrick died because Bitch Patrick was always bitching out on everything because it was always too scary.
Right.
And
I remember that in Germany.
Oh God! Did Dad ever tell you that story about Italy? Where I refused to go to the hospital because I was scared.
Yeah.
What an embarrassing moment!
Because you were to do that on your own.
I was supposed to do that on my own.
That's right.
And I didn't know how to
can't do it on my own.
Yeah, and my dad
So
was not impressed.
Bitch Patrick died.
Bitch Patrick died. Yeah, I was always afraid, and I never liked taking risks. And in a large part, parkour helped me with that because parkour is inherently about facing your mental barriers. But this was a huge mental barrier because this was like I had to do everything on my own, and then I was in a place where there was no one to help me. And I even remember wanting to give up a bunch of times. And I even remember talking to you on Facebook, and you were telling me, "Don't give up. Just keep persevering, keep pushing through." And every time I did, I was like, "Oh, I'm so glad I made that decision instead of just quit."
Yeah.
And that's what it was. It was like, I can do this. Like every time I'd fail, and I didn't give up, and I tried again and again and again, eventually I would find a way to succeed. And it would be this amazing experience. And I grew from it, and I just felt like I'm maturing as an adult. And I started really realizing that I can do this, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a great example of what it can look like when you just step inside of uncertainty, do the thing that you are most afraid of, and then witness what happens when you do. And that it might not actually go the way you want it to go, or the way you have it idealized in your mind, but that there is something huge in growth for you as an individual, for all of us as an individual, that happens when you step in.
Yeah.
So great. I'm just gonna. Yesterday, I did my first improv class, but not really.
Like acting improv?
Improv.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm actually doing that today, this afternoon.
Are you?
Yeah, Kingdom Nuts.
I went to Loose Moose, and for the most part, other than some exercises they did at the very beginning, I just sat in the theater watching and observing. For those same reasons. Well, if I do that, one, I don't know what I'm doing. And if I do that, I might look silly, which is idiotic and ironic, because that's the whole point of improv.
Yeah.
Is to be as outrageous as possible.
Your programming is to always look good no matter what.
That's right. And so I kept myself safe.
Yeah.
Now I will go there again, and it is a process. So really, what I hear in this episode, and the biggest takeaway for everybody listening, is like, there's a thing that you're really curious about, interested in, want to know more about, and it is a process. Period. It is always a process to get to wherever it is that it will bring you, if you allow it. And that's it. So just embrace the process.
And the crazy thing is, like, just touching on what you said about, you know, it might not go the way you expect it to, or the way you played it out in your head. It might like end up as like a spectacular failure that like pushes you in a totally different path that you realized was what you wanted to do the whole time. And you had no concept of it. It was totally off your radar. You didn't even know that you didn't know about it. But because you had this great experience, or this maybe not so great experience, trying something new that made you uncomfortable, it like sent you off on a totally different direction that otherwise might not have happened if you'd never at least tried.
Yeah.
Or you might have failed and then learned, and from that learning lesson continued, and you know, eventually maybe it does conceptualize the way that you wanted it to. And that's just exciting, you know, thinking about it now.
Totally. So if somebody wanted to reach out and connect with you, how would they find you?
Probably on Instagram. It's always funny how people are like, oh, you got so many followers. I don't think that means anything, personally. I think that's just a number.
It's one of the things that we're all caught up in.
Yeah, and I'm like, how many of these people are even real?
And what's your Instagram handle?
It's Blinkered Biggie.
Blinkered Biggie.
Or you can find us on just Optimal Movement, and that's generally the best way of getting a hold of us. Or you can email us at stunts@optimalmovement.ca. Yeah, and that's generally the best way of getting a hold of us if you're interested in any of the stuff that we talked about, or learning maybe about movement disciplines, or how to reclaim sovereignty over your body. It's a big community in Calgary, and it's growing every day. And yeah, it helped change my life for the better. So
Yeah.
I think everybody should try it.
Well, thanks so much for coming and playing. We'll have you again when we have some more people here, and
just to like add my little input.
Absolutely. Well, you've always got something really great to contribute. So
do we have a podcast talking about flat Earth?
Well, we'll see what that looks like. So thanks for listening. Have a great Saturday. We'll see you next week.
Cue music. That was awesome, man. That was fun.
Yeah.
It's crazy how fast an hour goes by. I thought I was only talking for like 20 minutes.
Well, we talked for about 30, 35, and then there's a preamble, right? So it's about 15 minutes or so, just to kind of get somebody warmed.
Yeah, about what we're
feeling
going to talk
comfortable.
about.
And so the thing that we end up talking about just
organically
happens
happens
naturally, right?
Yeah.
There's so many that come and go. So how should I prepare? There's nothing to prepare.
Just whatever topic comes.
And most people are viscerally affected by the
Improvising?
the inability to, like, I don't know what to do now. Like, that's
Where's my
perfect.
script?
That's actually exactly where you need to be.
Yeah, that stretch zone where you're not quite certain what's
Mhm.
going on.
So what are you doing for the rest of the day?
Well, I'm doing improv at Kinko Nuts at 1 p.m. I wanted to do Thai technique, but they're like 12 to 1. It's like, so if I were to do that, I don't think I'd make the improv, and I keep putting the improv off. But I kind of want to learn a bit more about it because it's acting, and I'm doing a big audition technically at the end of December, that Patty Crane workshop. So I kind of want to have I want to give myself as many advantages as possible, or as much experience as possible prior to going into that, because the stunt coordinators are basically going to watch me and see how adept I am at doing these things, and what my specialties are that I bring to the table already, and if they can use me.
Yeah.
And then if I get like some stunt gigs, man, woo, I'm rich, biatch. Not really.